You won't believe what Tom Bower just uncovered. It's one of the most baffling age mysteries ever to hit royal history, and it centers around none other than Meghan Markle. According to Bower, the Meghan Markle the world fell in love with the glowing Hollywood actress who charmed her way into royal life might not be the same woman her records claim. Somewhere between Los Angeles and London, the numbers just don't add up. And it all started when Meghan's own father, Thomas Markle, began to talk not in anger, but with the tone of a man burdened by truth. His words weren't gossip, they were memories. Fragments of a timeline that didn't match the glossy version the world was sold. Thomas spoke softly, as if every sentence carried a weight only a father could understand. He remembered the rehearsals, the ambitions, the teenage dreams, the Meghan he raised. But when she became famous, something in her story didn't fit. The dates didn't match, the milestones blurred, and her age, oh, that was where the cracks began to show. Thomas didn't scream it to the tabloids. He hinted it, carefully, almost like a man trying to correct history before it hardened into myth. He suggested, ever so slightly, that Meghan wasn't as young as the palace claimed. That perhaps her official birth year had been adjusted. And when a father says that a man who once held her baby photos, who knew the birthdays, the graduations, the phases, it hits differently. This wasn't internet chatter. This was a parent hinting at a truth that could rewrite a royal timeline. That's when the paper trail started to emerge. It all began in March 1997 with a copy of 17 magazine. It was the go-to magazine for every American teen dreaming of fame. Buried deep in one of its glossy pages, a small list appeared. And among the names, clear as day, Meghan Markle, age 21. Wait, what? If Meghan was born in August 1981, as every biography and royal record insists, she would have been just 15 inches 1,997, not 21. That's a 6-year gap. Not a typo, not a printing fluke, 6 whole years. And here's the kicker. This wasn't some internet rumor posted by anonymous fans. This was ink on paper, published decades before she became a duchess. You can still find that issue in libraries today. And there, on that old page, it says it plain and simple, 21. If that number is correct, it doesn't just shift her birth year, it changes everything from her school years to her acting debut. Suddenly, the young, fresh-faced actress wasn't in her 20s chasing Hollywood dreams, she was a woman approaching her 30s, quietly reinventing herself in an industry obsessed with youth. So here we are with 2 versions of Meghan Markle. Version 1, the official story. Born August 4th, 1981, Los Angeles. That makes her 44 years old in 2025. The version carved into royal biographies, press releases, and palace briefings. Version 2, the magazine record. A 1-year-old in 1997, placing her birth around 1,975 or 1,976, meaning she'd be close to 50 today. A 6-year rewrite of identity. That's not just a number, that's a rebrand. If true, it means the Meghan who joined the royal family wasn't a 6-year-old actress stepping into a fairy tale. She was a woman in her early 40s, entering one of the most scrutinized families in history. Think about that. Every milestone, graduation, acting debut, royal wedding shifts. The palace's version becomes a carefully curated narrative, while the real one sits hidden behind layers of spin and PR magic. It's like the difference between ink and pencil. Ink is permanent like a birth certificate. Pencil, you can erase, rewrite, make it fit the story you want the world to see. And so the world got the ink version of Meghan's life polished, royal approved. But that old 17 magazine issue, that's the pencil sketch. Faint, forgotten. But still there if you look close enough. Add to that her father's testimony, and suddenly the myth starts to tremble. It's not gossip anymore. It's a timeline that doesn't add up. Now, let's jump to the one thing even palace PR can't edit: birth records. Because just when people thought the age rumors were wild enough, Tom Bower went further straight into the heart of Meghan's most personal chapter, the birth of Archie. According to Bower's latest revelations, Meghan's story about Archie's birth wasn't just inconsistent, it was constructed, and for once, Bower wasn't alone. An insider from Portland Hospital, where Meghan supposedly gave birth, stepped forward. This person worked there, saw how things really operated, and claimed that Harry's account in his memoir, Spare, didn't match hospital reality. Now, in Harry's version, it was cinematic. Meghan glowing and calm, 2 epidurals, serene atmosphere, and a 2-hour recovery before heading back to Frogmore Cottage. But for anyone who knows how childbirth actually works, especially at a high-end facility like Portland, that version sounds like a fairy tale, not a medical record. Epidurals don't work like that. They're continuous, not something you can double up. And no hospital discharges a new mother 2 hours after birth, especially one with potential complications. Just to put things into perspective, the drive from Portland Hospital to Frogmore alone takes nearly an hour. So that means Meghan would have had just 1 hour to deliver, recover, stabilize, and leave. Anyone who's ever been through childbirth knows that's impossible. Doctors and nurses at Portland follow strict postpartum monitoring, especially for high-risk pregnancies. And yes, Meghan's was classified as geriatric. It's a medical term for expectant mothers over 35. Not an insult, just a fact. That means constant observation, no quick exits, no casual candle-lit birthing suites. Yet, in Harry's version, there were candles, birthing balls, and soft lights like a spa, not a hospital ward. It didn't make sense. An insider even revealed that Portland Hospital doesn't allow that kind of setup for high-risk patients. They follow protocols, not Pinterest boards. And then came whispers of preeclampsia, a dangerous condition that demands magnesium sulfate treatment, strict monitoring, and absolutely no early discharge. So how could Meghan have left the hospital 2 hours later, glowing and ready for the cameras? That's when people started to realize this wasn't about motherhood anymore. It was about management. Because when your image depends on perfection, when you're half a royal, half a Hollywood brand, every detail must be choreographed. From the birth story to the baby photos, everything had to fit the royal script. Smooth, magical, untouchable. But as Bauer and others pointed out, too much of it didn't align. The epidurals, the recovery time, the hospital logs, the timing, they all collapsed under scrutiny. It wasn't a conspiracy theory anymore. It was a pattern. A pattern where reality seemed to bend just enough to preserve the illusion. And if you look closely, you start to notice this isn't the first time something didn't quite fit. From her birth year, to her birth story, to her public image, the lines all seem to have been drawn in pencil. Soft, adjustable, rewritable. It's as if every chapter of her life was polished until it sparkled, even if that meant changing the details along the way. But the problem with pencil is that when light hits the page just right, you can still see the erased lines underneath. Tom Bauer wasn't trying to destroy a fairy tale. He was doing what journalists do, pulling the curtain back. And what he found wasn't just a rumor, it was a rewrite. The question isn't whether Meghan's story was false. It's whether the world was ever told the whole truth. Because when you build an empire on image, the first thing that cracks is reality. And now, the ink and pencil of Meghan Markle's life, her age, her motherhood, her myth, are finally colliding under the spotlight. And once you've seen what's underneath, you can never unsee it again. But wait, there's one more layer to this royal riddle that's too intriguing to ignore. Because when you start connecting these dots, the age discrepancy, the mysterious birth details, the timeline that refuses to make sense, you begin to realize that maybe this isn't about one mistake at all. It's about a pattern of reinvention. Tom Bauer has always said that Meghan Markle's story reads more like a script than a biography. Every chapter feels rehearsed, every reveal perfectly timed, every controversy turned into a spotlight moment. It's as if the Duchess understood something from day one. In modern royalty, narrative is power. Control your story and you control your image. But what happens when the truth starts to leak through the cracks? You can't help but wonder if the age story really is true, if she really was 6 years older than the palace led everyone to believe. How many other royal facts are actually just edits? Because the same meticulous storytelling that surrounded her Hollywood career followed her straight into royal life. Every outfit, every headline, every private photo release, it all carried the same polish, the same Hollywood rhythm. Even moments that were supposed to look candid felt directed. And when Tom Bauer began piecing these inconsistencies together, he wasn't just uncovering gossip, he was exposing the machinery behind a myth. Behind every spontaneous photo of Meghan and Harry walking through Montecito or stepping onto a red carpet, there was planning. Behind every truth bomb interview, there was a script. The same precision that reshaped her age might have shaped the entire royal narrative too. Maybe that's why this mystery hit so hard. Because it's not just about how old Meghan Markle really is, it's about how far someone will go to rewrite themselves into the perfect version of a fairy tale, and what happens when the world finally catches a glimpse of the pages underneath. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And now, the royal gloss has cracked, revealing not a villain or a victim, but something far more human, a woman fighting to control her own legend in a world that's finally starting to read between the lines.